I've not listened to a pair of over-ear Beats headphones for years. I'm a little bit nervous about this. I'm going to play my tried and tested test track, which is Peter Gabriel Sledgehammer, and you guys can watch my reaction. Back in 2008, we had the very first version of the Beats Studio headphones. They were made by Monster Cable, but they had the backing of Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre, so they flew off the shelves pretty much immediately. And back then they were just wired, there was no Bluetooth version, but they were noise cancelling, and they definitely had a signature sound. We had to wait quite a while for a new version, but in 2013 they arrived, they were wireless, they had a brand new design, and those were the first Beats over-ear headphones I ever bought. Then Beats was acquired by Apple in 2014, and in 2017 we got the Beats Studio 3, and well, we've had to wait until now to get these. These are the Beats Studio Pro, and we've had to wait 6 years really for them to arrive, so there's a lot riding on these headphones, and Beats promises improved sound, voice performance, comfort and durability, and connectivity. These are also the first pair of Beats Studio headphones I've used since that second generation in 2013, so there's a lot riding on my expectations as well. And I've been playing with them. Right, let's talk about specs, and the first thing to bear in mind is that the Beats Studio Pro don't have the W chip in them from Apple, so they have their own proprietary Beats chip, and the reason for that is because they want them to be compatible with both iOS and Android, and that means they're compatible with the fast pairing option on both platforms, which I've tested and works very well. Equally, you can find these on both of the Find My options on Android and iOS if you lose them, so these really are cross-platform. As for the rest of the specs, they have 40mm dynamic drivers, an advanced micro venting array, upgraded mics for fully adaptive noise cancelling. There's also a transparency mode, an ultra plush design which features a memory foam core and leather. There's also USB-C for charging and audio, and the audio part of that can go right up to 24-bit at 48 kHz for lossless music. There's also a 3.5mm headphone jack, and when it comes to battery life, there's 40 hours with ANC turned off, 24 hours with it turned on, and a 10-minute charge gives you 4 hours of listening time. Oh, and they also turn themselves off after a period of inactivity. There's 4 new colours to choose from, and they cost £349.99 in the UK, and they ship from the 20th of July. But let's talk sound. Beats still refers to the sound as iconic, which it really has been over the years. The problem is that the iconic sound has often been very bass heavy, and that won a massive fan base, and it suited certain types of music very well. The problem is that the iconic Beats sound gave them a reputation of just having very bass heavy headphones. And they've made several changes to these over the Beats Studio 3, which in theory should give us a completely different sound. So those 40mm drivers have 25% stronger magnets for better efficiency, better power consumption, and they even out the frequency response right across the board. In theory, that means a flatter and more uniform sound compared to the Beats Studio 3, and reduced distortion of up to 80%. These also have spatial audio, Dolby Atmos support, and dynamic head tracking, just like the AirPods Max. But the big question I have as someone who hasn't listened to a pair of Beats Studio headphones for years is whether or not that iconic sound has matured. A moment ago, I listened to these for the first time ever. This is what happened. I've not listened to a pair of over-ear Beats headphones for years. I'm a little bit nervous about this. I'm going to play my tried and tested test track, which is Peter Gabriel Sledgehammer, and you guys can watch my reaction. First impressions, they're very bright. Lots of top end, lots of sparkle as they call it. They don't sound like the Beats that I remember and the Beats that a lot of people probably remember, which is that very boomy bottom end. I am going to try something else. I'm going to try something with a lot of bass, Unfinished Sympathy, which, well, let's see how that sounds. Okay, so a lot of bass there. There's a very deep, I think it's an 808 or something, kick drum on this track. Reproduces it fine. It doesn't wash out everything. I mean, you quite often get that with this track on bad headphones where that bass drum just kills everything basically. It's way too big. That isn't the case on these. It's not too boomy. The middle range of the EQ is a little bit boosted possibly, which isn't my favourite sound signature. The other thing I'm going to try very quickly is Jack of Speed by Steely Dan. That's a lovely balanced sound actually. So Jack of Speed has got lots of things going on in the left and right channels, and there's lots of separation there, which is nice. The bottom end, that, you know, the lower frequencies are there and represented, trust me, but not overpowering. And that was always the problem with Beats. It was always very much, as I mentioned earlier, focused for electronic music, hip hop, and that sort of stuff where you do want lots of, you know, rich bottom end things going on. On these first listens, I can't hear any of that. Let's give Adele a go, because I love to hear how headphones deal with just piano and vocals. That's impressive. So Adele's vocals very, very much cut through. Again, there's lots of high end, you know, lots of sparkle there, which isn't for everyone. I totally get that. It suits that song very well. I can't quite believe I'm saying that for a pair of Beats headphones, because Adele, Easy on Me, well, it's not the sort of song that you'd associate with a pair of headphones from Beats. And I think what's happened over the years is that the sound signature for Beats has become far more capable of dealing with lots of different genres of music. So it's not just about hip hop and, you know, dance music and electronic stuff. It can deal with Adele just singing along to a piano and a very quiet kick drum. If it can deal with that, it's evolved seriously. When it comes to noise cancelling, we've got a new chip, new mics, and 48,000 times per second processing, so it should be pretty good. I've compared the Beats Studio Pro against what I think are still the best noise cancellers on the market, which are Sony's XM5s. The Beats Studio Pro aren't quite as good as the XM5s with ANC. These go incredibly quiet. The world virtually disappears and there's no audible hiss. The Beats Studio Pro, there is audible hiss. It's not too bad, but it is definitely there, and the world just doesn't go quite as quiet as it does on these. The best way I can describe the noise cancelling performance on the Beats Studio Pro is that it's on a par with the AirPods Max. So if you've experienced the AirPods Max when it comes to noise cancelling, these are as good. When it comes to transparency mode, which is when you let the outside world in, these aren't as good as AirPods Max, but then nothing is. These are still king of the transparency jungle. They are, however, just as good as the XM5s, and really just as good as pretty much any other modern recent pair of over-ear noise cancelling headphones when it comes to transparency mode. Beats promises 27% better calling performance on these compared to the Beats Studio 3, and they do a great job. If you know me, you know that I don't get too excited about taking telephone calls on these types of headphones because I use earbuds. For me, that works far better. But I've used these for a couple of telephone calls. The person could hear me, I could hear them. It was perfectly clear. You will not have a problem with calls with the Beats Studio Pro. We can't talk about Beats headphones without talking about the design, and I am one of those people who fell hook, line and sinker for the first version back in 2008. I lusted after those headphones just because of that design. And what I love about the Beats Studio Pro is that they are clearly Beats headphones, but they have matured, a bit like the sound actually. They look iconic, but just more grown up. Beats partnered with a guy called Samuel Ross to design these. He's a very big noise apparently in the fashion and streetwear space. He's worked with massive brands including Nike, so he knows what he's doing. They don't look that different to the Beats Studio 3 to be fair, but there are some refinements. So the brushed metal is different, there's refined typography, and when it comes to the case, we have this. This is their new woven mesh case, and it's unlike any other headphone case I've used. The key thing is, with these Beats Studio Pro, they fold correctly. So they fold right down like that, which most new headphones don't. And that means they can fit into a nice small carry case like this, which is convenient, doesn't take up loads of space in your bag, and you won't mind traveling with. And they have physical buttons. There are no touch controls on this, which again is a big thumbs up from me. So you have on the left ear cup, volume up, volume down, play and pause, and then to switch between noise cancelling and transparency mode, you just double press the power button. In terms of comfort, they are very comfy headphones. I've not had them long enough to wear them for days and days and days, but I will do that and report back. But initial impressions, there's loads of padding on the ear cups, there's plenty on here as well. They're a nice comfy pair of headphones, so again, if you're going to be using these all day, I don't think you're going to have an issue. I think I've come to a very simple conclusion about the Beats Studio Pro. If you're thinking about buying the AirPods Max, don't. Buy these instead. The sound has matured. That iconic Beat sound does cope with lots of different types of music these days. The noise cancelling is as good as the AirPods Max, not quite on a par with the XM5s, but everything else about these headphones beats these, trust me. On that note, the case, XM5 case, Beats Studio Pro case. And these have spatial audio, Dolby Atmos support, and dynamic head tracking, all of the stuff basically that you get with the AirPods Max for a lot less. My first impressions of the Beats Studio Pro is very positive indeed. I've been out of the Beats Studio game for years, and it feels like I've come back in at just the right time. However, I'd love to know which headphones you'd like me to compare the Beats Studio Pro against, so let me know in the comments. But if you've still got some time and you're still thinking about buying the AirPods Max, keep watching for a link to my last video review of these headphones.